Hello, Mavericks. How's it going? This is Rob Reinhold, and we are literally less than a day away from the Bank of Canada rate statement that's due on June 1st, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. All right, so we're getting ready for this live event. These central bank announcements are always a big deal because this is where you see massive energy and lots of really big trends start here on these kind of meetings. So going into tomorrow, we know that there's an announcement coming out of the Bank of Canada. So really quickly, let's run down the Bank of Canada, how it works. They have a dual mandate, price stability and full employment. And they've got 14 members, the governor, the deputy governor, and 12 directors. Now they're going to all meet, and they've probably already started meeting. They're going to meet today and tomorrow. And tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, they are going to release what their interest rate policy is until their next meeting. So let's check the news, and we can see that Reuters is saying that there's a 50 basis point hike. It's a done deal. Business Week says the same thing, and Forex Factory is also looking for a 50 basis point hike. So you can see here, the market is going into this meeting fully expecting that there is going to be a 50 basis or 0.5% hike of interest rates. Okay, let's talk about trading news. We have what's called a known unknown. We know for a fact that tomorrow at exactly 10 a.m. Eastern Time, the Bank of Canada is going to do something. We know that for a fact. And we know that at that point, there's likely to be an amount of energy and trades that are released. Now, there is an expectation of what is likely to happen tomorrow. And we're going to take a look here at charts of the Canadian dollar. And we're going to see that people have been making bets before the announcement, going into the announcement with an expectation of a 50 basis point hike. So that is what's called priced in. So a 50 basis point hike is totally priced in. So there should be no movement at all on the announcement of 50 basis points. What is not fully priced in is what they're going to do in the future. And you can see here Business Week saying it could be twice that amount. And they're talking about the next meetings and the next meetings. So there's an expectation that the Bank of Canada is going to keep raising rates over the next few meetings. This is where I think there's a possibility that the market gets a little bit of surprise. Remember, we're priced in for a 0.5% rate hike. That's a done deal. There's really going to be no movement off that. What there will be movement off of is the Bank of Canada going to raise rates more aggressively than the market thinks, or are they going to be more dovish? That's going to be the real story going into the report tomorrow. So let's go ahead and take a look at the charts. Let's start off here with the Cad Basket. So I'm going to go out to a daily chart just so we can see a big picture. Again, this is our proprietary currency baskets we use here at Maverick, where we compare this currency against all the other currencies on an equally weighted basis. And if we take a look at a daily chart here, we can see that we just got done with a pretty deep pullback. And we've had a pretty decent bounce here over the past 5 or 6 days. That means that there are people taking long positions going into the Bank of Canada. So at this point, when we look at these charts, I'm going to call the daily chart mildly bullish. We do have a EMA that's now turning a little bit higher. We've got a parabolic SAR that just got pierced today. Mildly bullish here. But when we take a look at stuff like a 4-hour chart, these are looking very bullish. So longer term view, the CAD is mildly bullish. But on a shorter term view, we're looking at a 4-hour chart. It is quite bullish here at the moment. We've got a very steep EMA. We've got a very steep parabolic SAR. We got RSI that's coming up above 70, which is saying, hey, this is really strong here. And so the big question that everyone asks at this point is, we know what the trend is. We know where the velocity is. The question is, when the Bank of Canada announces tomorrow, is there going to be a continuation or is there going to be a reversal? And that's really the question going into every single news event, is continuation or reversal. Now let's take a look back at some key points here. And you can see that we are actually at a pretty key resistance level that we just hit here on the currency basket. I think that resistance is actually looking pretty strong at the moment. And you can see that if we do break above that, we've got some more resistance up here. Looking at just this 4-hour chart on the Cad Basket, it's looking to me like, okay, short term it's going higher, but it's right up against resistance. Right up against some resistance. For me to be long the CAD, I'm going to need to see it clear out of that resistance. Then I can take a position. That is with the continuation. That would be a trade of, okay, I think the Canadian dollar is going to continue to be strong. If we get a reversal, then again, all bets are off, and it looks like we're probably going to be at least dropping back down to the support level, if not to this lower one down here. So looking at this, we're kind of right in the middle of the range on the Cad Basket about what we want to do. Now, this is where we know what our outlook is on the CAD. We have a +1 on a trend. We got a +3 on a velocity. So we're looking at this on the long side because that's where the velocity is right now. We need to find out what to pair it up against. So let's go through all the currency baskets and see, okay, where is the weakness? If we want to buy CAD, our job is to pair it up against the weakest currency we possibly can. So let's take a look at dollar. And you can see the dollar has been weak last week, but this week it's been pretty flat. So at this point, EMA is flat. We got a +1 on the parabolic SAR. RSI is flat. The dollar is like a +1. I'm just not too interested in pairing it up against dollar. Let's take a look at yen. And you can see yen here is extremely weak. Extremely weak. So this one jumps to the top of the list as far as what to pair a CAD long up against a yen trade. We take a look at Swiss franc. You can see Swiss franc is pretty flat. It's pretty flat. It hasn't gone anywhere in well over a day or two. So we're just going to skip that one. Go to euro. Euro is dead. There's no reason at all to pair up CAD against euro. Euro's flat. Let's look at pound. As you can see, pound has not gone anywhere either. So we really have had 4 currencies, dollar, Swiss franc, euro, pound, all flat, all going nowhere. Let's take a look at the Aussie. All right, and here we have a currency that's now showing a little upward momentum. Now we just had a nice run, and we're basing here. We've had a little pierce of a parabolic SAR. RSI is starting to weaken a bit. I would give the Aussie a +1, saying, hey, it's taking a break. It's taking a break, and if we can break out above these higher levels, then that's going to be a nice breakout, and you'll see that that's going to go to a +2 or +3. But until then, Aussie's kind of on a little break. And Kiwi is on a little bit of a break as well. It has not been as strong as the Aussie, but we had a run, and then you see we're falling back down here. Very slightly bearish things, but just telling me, Kiwi's not ready to play either. When we look to pair things up here, the only pairing that really makes sense going into this announcement is CAD yen to the long side. So let's take a look at our velocity scoreboard. Here's where we were at the start of the week. We had all the cryptos were really weak. They've had a little bounce over the weekend and on Monday. They had a little bounce. So cryptos are back up to 0 here. Really no reason at all to look at cryptos until we get a major turn in their longer term trends. We see that the yen has weakened substantially. Now that was our call over the weekend, was that yen was going to be the best currency to be short. And so far this week, it's been a great trade. And I know we've had a lot of traders jump onto Aussie yen long, Kiwi yen long. So yen to me looks like a currency to short here. Dollar has strengthened a bit, gone up to neutral. CAD is the one that really strengthened this week. Again, the question is continuation or reversal. And you get to decide this as a trader. You get to decide, okay, well, the CAD's already had a big run. I'm going to fade the CAD on the announcement, which is fine. You just have to figure out what you're going to pair it against. Swiss franc has weakened a little. Aussie and Kiwi has weakened a little bit. And so when we take a look at where we are right here, right now, if you want to be long CAD, then you really want to be long CAD against either the yen or the euro. and preferably the yen. If you want to be short CAD, the next strongest currencies are Aussie, Kiwi, and Swiss franc. So we'll take a look at some of those crosses as well. But before we take a look at those crosses specifically, we need to talk about trading news. Remember, whenever you trade news, there's 3 methods to trading news. You can enter before the announcement. This is where you take a position before the announcement. Now, this is the riskiest way to make a trade before news, but it's also the biggest payoff when you're right, because you're going to catch really big moves that go for you. But you have a lot of risk of slippage. We'll talk about just in a second. You can enter on the news. So basically, you throw out some orders around the currency pairs you want to trade. And if it goes your way, then you get triggered into the orders. And if it doesn't go your way, you never get triggered. So we'll talk about that as well. And then the second stage entry, this is where you let all the craziness go. Right at 10 a.m. Eastern time, there's going to be a big burst of energy. You just sit that out. 2, 3, 4 minutes later, then you come in and say, okay, I'm going to set my orders here, here, and here to get a fill. But let's talk about some of the risks involved in trading news. First one is slippage. Now, this is something that always surprises new traders, is that a market order isn't a guarantee. A stop order is a market order. So when you put in a stop market order, it is not a guarantee at all. So let's say that there's a trader that puts in stop in at 183.10. Look at this candle. This is 1 minute. This is in 1 minute. It went from all the way down here, all the way up to here. You are in line to get out with a stop order. And where you are in the line is where you get out. And you could potentially not get triggered at 183.10 and it goes up to 183.20. You're still in the back of the line. Now you're in the middle of the line. Now you're kind of by the front of the line. You may actually get filled up here at 183.50. And you say, well, geez, how did that happen? I had my stop in at 183.10. Yeah, that's called slippage. You're simply just in the queue. This is the biggest risk of getting into a position before the announcement. You take a position, you put in a stop, you think, oh, I've got, 30 pips of risk, 40 pips of risk. No, you don't. You have a lot more risk than that. And so you really need to be cautious about that and know what you're playing with. The other risk is the whipsaw. Now take a look at this announcement here. And I don't know what this announcement was. Oh, this actually probably is an employment report announcement. But take a look at this candle. This is a 1 minute candle. So in 1 minute, the CAD traded between 121 and 121.25. If you took a long and put in a short, you got stopped out for a loss. If you took a short and you put a stop up here, you got stopped out for a loss. This is called whipsaw. And this is the danger of getting in on the announcement. This can happen. And it has happened to me many times. And you just brush it off and you say a couple curse words and go on your way. But getting in on the news, remember, there's going to be a big burst of volatility right at 10 a.m. And it's probably going to last for about 1 or 2, maybe even 3 minutes. So the safest way to get into trades, and the one that we use the most, is the second stage. Second stage entry, where you're saying, I'm going to sit out the 1, 2, 3 minutes of craziness. Then I'm going to go in and put my orders in to get filled at certain levels. And until it hits that, I don't want to get in. So let's take a look at some currency crosses that I think are worth looking at, and we'll take a look at some specific entry points and prices. For me, CAD yen. CAD yen is the number one currency cross that I'm looking at. And I'm going to go down here to an hourly chart here. We are getting this nice high base here. I really, really like high bases. And so let's just talk about certain prices. We've got this really tight base. The high of this candle right here was 101.965. 101.965 was the high of this. Until it breaks above that level, I'm not interested. Now, using a second stage entry, when the Bank of Canada comes out, there's going to be a burst. There's going to be a burst and there's going to be a big move. So let's just say that there was a big move. Let me get my drawing tools out here. And let's say that we do get a big move higher. So the Bank of Canada comes out and we get a big green candle all the way up here to, 102, whatever that is, 60, 102.75. All right. On a second stage entry, you'd basically look at this and say, okay, we had that big move. And then let's say that the next candle is going to be something like maybe it comes back a little bit and then comes back a little bit again. All right. At this point, you now have an ability to go in and take an entry that's not super risky. It's not super risky. All the craziness is done. All the big whipsawing is done. You can go in and take a long up above this level of, let's call it, sorry, that's not going to work, 120, 102.80. Now, again, without knowing what's going to happen, we have no idea what's going to happen at 10 a.m. But if there's a big burst higher, let that thing go, let it come back down a little bit, and then put a buy stop on top of the entry point, the high point on the first candle. So you can go in and just put a buy stop there at 102.70 if that's where it is. And then, of course, always attach your stop. Now, this is, to me, in my opinion, the best currency cross to trade tomorrow on the long side for CAD yen. Now, if someone said, Rob, I want to take the other side, that's great. I have no idea where this is going. I could flip a coin and probably be more accurate or as accurate. Nobody knows going into a report. We've all seen reports that come out. We read the report and say, oh, that was great news, and it goes lower. Or that's terrible, and it goes higher. We don't know. We have no idea. So we have to play these news announcements like we literally don't know. And we have to go into them with what we call a premise. Okay, we think that X is going to happen because of, again, relative strength. So I just went through it. I think the CAD is going to move higher. I have no idea if that's true. So the question is, how can you trade that premise without just guessing? I could just buy the CAD yen now and hope and pray it works out. But if I'm wrong, I'm going to get crushed. There's going to be a big move. What if the Bank of Canada only raises a quarter of a point? It's going to be really a big move. And so you really need to be cautious around these things and go in there with the premise. Now, look, sometimes I have a premise where it says, hey, look, I actually like this long and short. I'm going to go long above 102.50 if it goes above that, or I'm going to go short below 101. You could absolutely set up two orders that says, hey, I don't care what it does. I just care that it runs somewhere and I've got my order there and I can get triggered. But I'm going to go in with a long CAD premise. If someone was going in there with the short CAD premise, I would say that's just as valid as mine. As I said, on these news announcements, toss a coin. Toss a coin. You can't do better than that. I promise you. Now, look, I could sit here and pontificate. I could write out an essay. I could tell you all the reasons why I think my premise is right. But tomorrow at 10, it might blow up. So what you have to realize is that you don't know. Nobody knows. And you have to structure trades where the risk reward makes sense, where the entry points make sense. So if someone said, Rob, I'm going into this tomorrow, short CAD. I think there's going to be a pop in the CAD, and then I want to fade that. Well, the other two currencies that we looked at, Aussie and Swiss franc looked the best to me. So let's take a look at Aussie CAD. So on Aussie CAD, you'd say, okay, where is a point that I could go long? Now you can see here over the past, 2 to 3 weeks, there's just been very little price movement here on Aussie CAD. We've got some pretty serious resistance up here at 91.25 and some pretty serious support down here somewhere around the 90.50 area. So these are going to be key levels. If you were looking to fade the CAD, then I think this level of 91.25, call it 91.25, I think you stick a buy stop order out there. You say, you know what? I'm going to put my buy stop at 91.25. And then, of course, attach your stop to that underneath it and just hang out here. And if your premise that the Aussie does better than the Cad and the Cad falls after tomorrow's thing, if that premise doesn't come true, you never got into a trade because you were never triggered. But if the Cad weakens and the Aussie strengthens, this order will get triggered, and then you'll be in a good-looking trade at that moment because it just broke out of some pretty serious resistance. So for me, Aussie Cad buy stop at 91.25. This is if you want to go into the report that Cad is either going to fall on the report or take off and then fade. The other pair would be Cad Swiss franc. So again, we're looking for to fade this one, to sell this because Cad is first. And I'm trying to find some support here. That's some pretty weak support. We got a couple of levels here. So we'll call that 75.55. I definitely don't like this one as much. We got some pretty major support down here at 75.30. But let's talk about levels here. I think I'm going to go down below this one here. So I think you do a sell short here around 75.25 is going to be where this order is. Down below that level. And of course, we always put a buy stop in on our shorts. But I think you want to wait all the way down to 75.25 in order to order this. Again, this is if you were wanting to be short Cad going into the announcement tomorrow. So when it comes right down to it, I think it's basically, a decision of whether you want to be long or short Cad. I like to always play relative strength. I think the relative strength looks good on the Cad on the long side, but we have no idea. We have no idea what's actually going to happen. So remember, if you're looking to be in before or on the news, you have to know what you're doing when you're trading news. You've got to be really good on your orders. You've got to be really smart. We always recommend pyramiding going into before the events. Again, if you aren't understanding what pyramid is, take a half a position and have twice as big of a stop. Take a third of a position and have 3 times of a big stop. It allows you to sit through these volatile events and not get stopped out. So go and watch our session on trading news and advanced concepts, and you can see exactly how we do that. But on this one, I like second stage entry the best, and I think that's what you want to go with. So, preview of the Bank of Canada tomorrow. If you're going to get in before or on the news, always use stop limit orders. Always use stop limits. CAD is going into the report as a strong currency. You can play continuation or you can play reversal. I'm looking to play continuation. And to me, the yen looks the weakest. And then if you want to take a look at something else, take a look at the euro as the weakest. And if you are looking for a CAD short, I like it best against the Aussie. I think you pair up Aussie CAD, and that's going to be the pair you take a look at. That's a preview for tomorrow. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye, everyone.